Welcome back, nerds. Fino here with a guide for the free SR ticket. This one is tied to the 20 million download campaign. You get it as soon as you clear for Yuki, and you have until a reset on May 2nd to get the ticket and May 4th to use it. The special thing about this ticket is that a number of story-locked servants are available as options. I've picked out the 5 best ones for your consideration, but before I get to that, some caveats. Not all story locks are made equal, and if you choose poorly, you may end up with underwhelming clunkers like Gorgon or Concert U. Now you could speculate on one of these getting a future buff. Could Paisen get a 100% battery? Maybe, but I wouldn't gamble on it happening. For this video, I'll only be working off the buffs that we know a servant is going to get within the next 2 years. Next, the waifu clause. If there's a servant you've been working on and the extra copy furthers your goal, either going towards NP5 or the servant coins for level 120, now's not a bad time to go for the gold. This goes double for the stronger general pool servants like Estrella, Percival, Hephaestion, and Zenobia. For this video, I'll be assuming you have all of those at NP0, in which case they're not worth considering when you factor in the sheer exclusivity of the story locks. With the ground rules set, let's dive in. At 5th place, I have a tie, so I guess this is technically a top 6, but we have 2 archers, Balban and Saber Alter. Now, in the past, I didn't exactly have the highest opinion of Shadow the Emian, but he's accumulated an NP upgrade, and within a year, his shitty old rainbow buff becomes a 30% battery, with those effects becoming multi-hit effects instead of expiring after a turn. Now, he's still a clunky servant, saddled with hit-based effects, but he also does incredible amounts of damage with defense ignore built in. He has the second highest raw NP damage in the archer class. In defensive setups that can afford to both exploit his short cooldowns and let him sit on his regular cards, he's quite a menace. Given that unlimited loss works as an Arts Noble Phantasm, I think you know what that means. The other 5th place contestant is our old friend, Super Tamlin Elichan, or as she's sometimes called, Balban. Her mishmash of batteries, survival utility, and debuffs might seem odd at first glance, but they help offset the weaknesses of her preferred supports, the 2 Scotties. More importantly for new players, the party evade and self charges are useful out of the box, assuming you're willing to use pure prisms on Lost Belt 6 materials. If you're torn between these 2 archers, I'd go with whichever you have at the highest NP level. If you don't have either, then I'd say Balban if you're a new player still in account building. And if you're established, Saber Alter on account of his exclusivity. Outside of the story banner, he only shows up one more time as of this recording, alongside Archer Moriarty in a Shinjuku-related banner. Now moving on to number 4, it's Kanis. Kanis doesn't fill a strictly necessary role in team building, but having someone you can task with cleanup on hard fights is a nice convenience. They rock a combination of guts, damage reduction, and an on-hit buff that increases Kanis' attack and reduces your enemy's attack for a turn. This cocktail of effects makes Kanis deceptively durable, which is a useful quality for a finisher to have. As an added bonus, Kanis might be the single best Grail front servant in the game. Top 10 for sure. If you stick Kanis in a choke point, you'll get to see enemies just throw themselves onto you and get obliterated one at a time. It's awesome. One of the mechanics of the BB Grail front, coming this summer, is that Meltrilus tends to make a beeline for the player. Kanis is quite effective at stopping her from putting her foot up Ritzka's ass. Overall, a solid choice, even going from 0 to 1 copy. While their Noble Phantasm is necessary for Buster Brave Chains and it comes with a useful crit effect, the actual damage coming from it is only a small part of Kanis' overall power. Number 3. Thomas Edison. When he's not busy being half of FGO's least funny joke, Edison is a strange but surprisingly decent support. As decent as you can be without immediate on-demand charge. Edison used to be kind of a shit servant, but he's gotten quality upgrades since his release, gaining targeted cooldown reduction and a trio of 5-turn buffs, stars per turn, party charge per turn, and party NP damage. Buffs that go beyond 3 turns are quite rare in this game, and it means that if you have Edison in the mix, you can fight during the turns when other setups would be on the back foot, waiting for their skills to recharge. Completely separate from this campaign, new players are allowed to pick a free 5-star servant, and if they're smart, they'll pick Zhuge Liang aka Waver. I did a video about the SSR ticket, which I'll link at the end if you want more details about that. But with Waver and Edison, you can make a pretty solid early game engine. Waver gives you a friend charge, Edison gives you staying power. Often it makes sense for newbies to grab attackers off their friend list instead of meta charge supports. It's a hell of a lot easier to use someone else's Arjuna Alter or Space Ishtar than it is to level and skill up attackers for every situation. So for the early stages of account building, Edison has his worth. For the record, old players can also pick a free SSR, but I didn't mention it earlier because they'll probably come on here to brag about how they picked Bradamante or something. But speaking of Bradamante, Edison's Noble Phantasm, World Faith Domination, is unsuitable for farming but applies both a skill and NP seal. There's a particularly annoying challenge quest down the road in the Ilias Castle event. It's the one where you fight Bradamante and it takes 500 years. Or was it Britomart? Whatever, they're the same person. Britomante. Well, one of the solutions to this fight is to just stop her from using her Noble Phantasm by spamming NP seals. Now, World Faith Domination has a hit count of 1. He's not going to make it easy on you, but you can hypothetically keep that chain going often enough to gain a foothold and win the fight, which is what I ended up doing. Next up at number 2, it's FGO's very first story lock, Saber Alter. Much like Edison or Alter, Salter is a case of a mediocre, outdated servant getting enough upgrades to snowball into a real threat. She's already gotten her 20% battery, but around July next year, she's slated for something incredible. Mana Burst Reverse Scale is the upgrade that turns her shitty old single-turn Mana Burst into a servant-defining skill. First of all, she gets Invuln Pierce for 3 turns. Secondly, she gains a pair of 3-hit buffs. One is for Buster effectiveness, and the other gives her 10% charge for every enemy she hits. Using this with her regular cards is a terrible waste. The real value is pairing this with her Noble Phantasm. Excalibur Morgan can hit multiple enemies, but it only deducts 1 from your stack count. So that's up to 30% charge against an initial wave of 3 enemies, on top of the 10% you get back from Excalibur Morgan itself. And get this effect stacks with itself. So if you get its cooldown low enough with Koi and Skaya's help, you can get pretty close to having enough charge for a 4th Noble Phantasm. The downside is that, because the effectiveness of the strategy depends on the number of enemies in a wave, Salter has to worry about formations in situations where other Buster Loopers wouldn't care. The upside is that, against formations where she does work, Salter can potentially run some ridiculously aggressive setups involving 2 Koyan Lights, Oberon, and Black Grail. Servants that can farm with Black Grail are quite rare on the Buster side, so it's an enticing proposition. If you have Saber Alter at any NP level between 1 and 4, I'd highly recommend picking her up as a future investment. She only has 1 additional banner that I know of, and we're not getting it until January 2026. But if you're really new, there's a filthy strategy you can do to supplement this ticket. It involves clearing Fuyuki, stopping main story progress, and only rolling in the story banner until you're satisfied. Saber Alter and Caster Coup benefit from some pretty insane buffs, so getting copies of both early on works to your advantage. Now you might be wondering why such a powerful pickup is at number 2. It's because of the case where you have Salter at NP 0. Going from 0 to 1, I can think of a single, more useful servant. Number 1. Bargas, aka Tamlin Gawain. Big Barg is really good at one thing: sitting there and trading hits with your enemy. Once you get your skills invested and your command codes locked in, she has the potential, against specific enemies, to phase tank and heal through all their damage while also suppressing your target's dangerous buffs. With the addition of the Mighty Chain mechanic, she has the potential to spam her Noble Phantasm, which has cooldown reduction. This in turn lets her spam her regular skills, which include both her healing set and her charge regeneration effect. It's a feedback loop. As long as you have enough health and defense to survive Noble Phantasms, she can tough out fights you wouldn't expect at first glance, and you can extend her operational range with the right craft essences, both the heal amplifying and the defense increasing variety. When you don't have the sheer firepower to go for fast clears, attrition engines like Bargas are quite valuable. Gaining that capacity from nothing is such an increase to your account's overall power that, all other things equal, I have to recommend her first and foremost. If you're interested in learning more about Bargas' playstyle, I have an extensive guide for her that I'll link in the top right corner, assuming YouTube cards still work. But all other things aren't equal. The downside of Bargas and Balvin is that Lost Belt 6 servants are somewhat frequent fixtures in gacha banners. The current Castoria banner has both of them, and they'll show up again later this year with Britomart. Bargas gets another appearance down the road alongside Melusine, and Balvin is paired with Miss Crane for the Mystic Guy Symphony event. So if you plan to roll for any of those banners, you may want to use your ticket on a servant that's way more likely to drag you into the story banner. Like Salter. You'll have to pick your poison on that one. If she were out, I probably would have put Creammailed at number 1, but unfortunately we've fallen just short of her release window. So you'll have to get Cream the hard way, over Roland's cold, naked body. Good luck. Thanks for watching, lads. Like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more, and let me know who you ended up picking. I stream every week, 3 PM Pacific time, usually on the weekends, but if I get this video out on time, I'll actually be doing an end of the month special today over on twitch.tv/Finotaisen, so stop on by for a good time. See you there.